All right, we're back at 22 minutes after. Let's get back to our top story. Ben Bernanke's testimony up on Capitol Hill. Lizzie O'Leary is up on the Hill with a senior member of the House Financial Services Committee. Lizzie, all yours.
Carol, I'm with Paul Kanjorski. He's the #2 Democrat on the House Financial Services Committee. And I wanted to ask you, this was a hearing in which a lot of members were trying to get Chairman Bernanke to weigh in on these regulatory reform plans. He seemed to go farther than I have heard him before in essentially saying that he thought the Fed could be a systemic risk regulator. What was your take on that?
Yeah, he probably did go that far, but I think that is open to question yet, and I think it's subject to a lot of debate that's going to occur over the next several months. That issue certainly isn't yet ripe, and I have my doubts as to whether or not we should heap more responsibility on the Fed, and whether or not, if that were the case, we aren't changing the basic complexion of the Federal Reserve.
Well, that seems to be a concern that a lot of people in Congress have echoed. The Fed's independence, the Fed's sort of insulation from political pressures. One of the big sticking points has been this question of auditing what happens at the Fed from the General Accounting Office, or pardon me, it's now the Government Accountability Office. Should monetary policy meetings, the transcripts of those, be open to audit?
It's a difficult question because you may compromise their independence. There's no question of that. And since 1913, the Fed has been very responsible and very successful because of its independence. Now, we should study that issue, debate that issue. Clearly, if we go over and heap on much greater authorities than they presently have, much beyond the monetary policy set of the country, then I think they're going to open themselves up to that limitation of independence. I hope we can find another and a better way.
I was struck by one thing. I have never heard the chairman's tone on deficits be quite so sharp as it was in his prepared statement today. He called for prompt action. Does this, do you think, sort of pretend something for what kind of bills you all can pass, certainly as we move toward the health care debate?
I think it pretends the idea that we are in a new stage of the recession and that he sees success over the horizon, that we will be getting out of the recession, and it is time for us to think about what we will do to get the fiscal policy of the country straightened out so we don't have these interminable debts and deficits building up over the years as they are anticipated to do now. I think that's very healthy because it's another bit of evidence to say that he in his own mind and the Federal Reserve in their calculations have concluded that we are having some degree of success in the recovery program, that if we stay on this course, and of course nobody can guarantee that, but if we do, more than likely recovery is just around the corner.
Well, do you then buy the exit strategy that was laid out today?
Yes, absolutely. He has to come up with that strategy, and it's good that he displayed it to the Congress and to the American people, because it's things we have to contemplate. And it will be healthy for society that there won't be shock to our economic system when these policies have to be implemented in order to get to real recovery and to rein in the excessive amount of money that's in the system. I think we'll accomplish that. I walked away from today's hearing and his testimony more optimistic than certainly in the last year and a half with Bernanke, and I think he did us well and he did the country well by being as open and straightforward about what our prospects are, and we should become optimistic about it.
Did he do Ben Bernanke well? Because obviously we're moving toward the end of the chairman's term. Should he be renominated?
Well, of course, that's a decision the president has to make, but I think that he's showing he certainly has had the capacity, made some very tough decisions. I think Chairman Frank recognized how hard those decisions were and how successful they were. Sometimes the American people and the Congress tend to underestimate the success of the decisions he made, along with the two secretaries of Treasury. I think they've done that now. Whether he gets reappointed, that's something the president has to decide ultimately.
Well, Congressman Kanjorski, thank you very, very much. I know you got to go vote shortly. So, Carol, I'm going to send it back to you in New York. That was Paul Kanjorski, Senior Democrat on the House Financial Services Committee.
All right, Lizzie, thanks so much.